right now. Neither can we. I didn't pick up. You give it to Jim?
Oh, I did not.
I'll get one.
Thank you.
That fence fixed out there.
What's your phone number? 859.
No, she's done with her. About that one. 4 back
One 266 1266. Call me and then I'll.
That's okay. And what we said was we could,
I'm calling to see if it works.
Oh, yeah.
You got it.
You go to school from, components, what is it, components?
All right.
Sit down. There's overflow in the auditorium down the hallway. So we'll start in a couple of minutes once everybody's here.
It's not here. Money skills is not on here. But all these other things, it's a sign, it's a credit here. And it's a half credit there. So there's 6 signing places.
Question since we're waiting out, there's one thing that we said about the graduate.
That's a new way. I mean, I'd have to have some kind of explanation from the guidance counselor.
I sent that today. I don't like to ask things
Well, I'm assuming he went here one semester, and then he came here.
For December graduation, he needs to complete 5. Saying,
I mean, you know, when you repeat a class, you don't get, you know, 2 credits for repeating a class.
and you can't even make
Why we would issue a fee?
Yeah, I already did.
we can say that yeah, and I didn't have time back and worry about it. I apologize.
We had to read the basics, so you could do Yeah, Madison County, we have Madison Southern, Oldie Middle.
To order. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Clark County Board of Education for December 15th, 2015. I'd like to remind everyone who is here and who can't hear the meeting that audio has been set up in the auditorium. So if you can't attend here and you can't hear me speaking here, you can go down the hall and hear me speak clearly, hopefully. So I'd like to have everyone stand and observe a moment of silence. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adoption of the agenda. Mr. Christie, you had a change.
Yeah, we need to, if you would, please, we need to move item number 11 down to come after number 15. we grouped change orders together, and this change order really needs to come after the consideration of the basic bid. So item number 11 would need to move down to underneath number 15.
Any other changes, additions, or subtractions to the agenda?
I sent an email to Ms. Hicks concerning item number 18. Donations are maybe not as appropriate for a board, but the word allocation could be substituted in number 18.
Okay. That item will read, consider approval of one-time allocation of Bible teachers. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, a motion is in order to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the agenda as amended.
Motion by Dr. Griffith,
Second.
second by Mr. Parado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is approval of minutes for November 10th, 2015 student achievement reports, November 17th, 2015 regular meeting, and December 1st, 2015 special meeting. I think everybody was there at all those meetings. Any comments, additions, subtractions, changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve all 3 minutes in one motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for November 10th, 2015 student achievement reports, the November 17, 2015 regular meeting, and the December 1st, 2015 special meeting.
Motion by Ms. Hicks,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Student staff recognition.
We have none.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Public comments? All these people here and one person signed in to speak? All right, let's see. Name is, okay, principals, so, all right. It says CCPS principals, item number 20. So does one person want to speak for the group, or does everybody want to speak individually?
I guess I will be the brave, so I just want you to know, please forgive me for my appearance tonight. Mark Rose said we'd all wear T-shirts tonight, and he shows up in a suit. So I
Got a
just,
Watchtower plaid going there,
yes,
too.
very classy look. I would like to speak tonight on behalf of the principals concerning the renewal and extension of Mr. Christie's contract as superintendent. I guess I'd like to start with a story, and it was on May the 3rd. I never will forget, May the 3rd, I got a phone call, and it was Miss Nance. And I had just been named probably a week ago, a week previous, that I had been named principal of Baker Intermediate, and this was my first phone call from Mrs. Nance. And she said the superintendent would like to meet with me. Well, much like I am now, I was very nervous, and I went, and I went to the superintendent's office the very first time I'd been in that office, and he had laid out his expectations for me. And in those expectations, he respectfully and firmly outlined his vision for Clark County and for me. And so I signed my contract. That's why I was being called to the board office. And I signed my contract, and kind of like with my voice now, I never will forget. And I promised I would never share this story, because we made a vow that day, and I apologize, Mr. Christie, but he told me, I never will forget, I have high expectations for you, I have high expectations for Baker, and I expect great things. He kind of teared up, and that made me kind of tear it up, and we shook hands, and I knew at that moment, in that little moment of bromance, that's what I call it, little moment of bromance, this is a man, this is a person, this is a human being that I want to work for, and I want to work my hardest for this type of person. You all, if you were at the staff kickoff, the district kickoff, just a few months later in August of 2014 in GRC's auditorium, with emotion in his voice, much like mine now, standing in a room full of, it was the whole district. It was the community, it was the district. You could hear that raw passion, that emotion. You wanted to work for that guy. And I still want to work for that guy. There's people in this room who want to work for that guy. So, I just want to express and kind of recap, this is what, from my perspective, and granted, people have different perspectives and the principals have different perspectives. There's one thing, and I'm sure I speak for the group, he's done a fantastic job, a fine job, a job to be proud of. He's worked with you all. He's worked with teachers. And just kind of think of what we went through in the last 3 years. We went through consolidation and closing of schools. Folks have been uprooted and moved to new schools. You all, I don't have to repeat this. You all know what we've been through in the last 3 years. He has, with the help of others, he's redistricted. He's reassigned staffs. And again, folks that have been in the same school for 31 years. He's made a lot of tough decisions with a lot of help from other people, yourselves included. He's made a lot of tough calls that other people were maybe even afraid to make. And, you know, I just want you to know, I think he's done a fantastic job. I have felt nothing but support from Mr. Christie, from his cabinet, from the Board of Education. We've got a good thing going, and we went through some of the hottest fires, and there's no need to work backwards. If we can go through redistricting, reassignment, consolidation, and come out as a proficient school district and have a distinguished high school, and that's just in year one of all that stuff happening, I think the sky's the limit. There is no limit. And so I urge you to consider his extension and the renewal of his contract. And I would be remiss if I did not stand up and be counted today. He is a good man, and every single day you can ask these principals. We tell children, K through 12, be a good person. Treat others like you want to be treated. Mr. Christie's a good man. Cares about his people, students, teachers, and staff. So please, I urge you to please consider renewal and extension of his contract. And that's all I have to say. And I appreciate your all's work for the school district, and thank you very much.
Any other speakers? All right. Let's see. Next up is state and district updates.
Have a few. First off, I'd like to mention that we continue to work with the principals and the assistant principals separately and together on occasion to continue to meet these. And we meet on a bi-monthly basis with the KE and the Peaches process, program reviews, and continue to work on their individual comprehensive school improvement plans. The new teacher cadre, which is for the new teachers from 0 to 3 years in Clark County. They met again last Thursday. They were led into discussion about novice reduction strategies for reading and math literacy activities to take into their classrooms and a quick way to formatively assess their students. All schools have had walkthroughs in the first semester with feedback given to the school principals, individualized feedback about each of the teachers and what we observed there. More walkthroughs. We will be in every building again second semester. School administrators are holding their mid-year conferences with teaching staff at this time to discuss professional growth plans and the student growth plans, along with any observations that's been completed thus far. Just on November 18th, our district was selected as one of the districts to attend the Governor's Office of Early Childhood School Readiness Summit. We had Bridget Mann, Eva Miller, Scott Loscheider, community members, Becky Mathau, Debbie Fatkin, and John Roden attended the governor's conference on that. And this group, the purpose of this is to network within our community to increase school readiness awareness while identifying and addressing any barriers for families. Especially our special ed department, the Department of Educational Children, submitted the December 1 child count is completed, and maintenance of fiscal effort is completed into KDE in a timely and accurate manner. The total child count of students with disabilities for the district was 792 as of December the 1st. and I didn't write down to see what that compared to last year. I can get that to you. I'm not sure where that compared to. We're down 13 from last year. And having said that, you probably saw in the news articles today that seat shortfall, and it's tied to more special needs students being identified than projected. It says 20 districts to take $100,000 plus hit. Ours is down. We're not the one that's up. We've worked to get our students back into the classrooms and into the regular classrooms as best we can. And it looks like, on the preliminary figures, we'll take about a $76,000 hit in seats. And even though we were one that our students weren't were being hit with it. We're still in the district along those same lines of the district staff, special needs staff continues to meet with the schools to review and analyze the progress of the students with disabilities through the name and claim meeting. At our preschool, they're positively communicating school updates with its families and the community through a new Facebook account, so that one's up and going there. At the migrant program in Campbell Junior High, we're working there and preparing for a combined summer learning program. We'll put the summer school program and the migrant summer school program together, and we'll house that at Campbell this year. Now it's going to take some work to do because we're going to have a lot of construction going on in that building, so we're still looking at the planning and how we'll work through that, and we'll probably be over in the new sections of the building when we go to do that. And that's all I have for right now.
All right, next up, item number 4, Community Walk Bike Strategic Plan. Ms. Hefner and Mr. Berry. I would think with this crowd and Steve Berry here, we're going to talk about redistricting again.
No, not with me here. No. Appreciate your time this evening. Community education is part of the Clark County Activity Coalition, which has as offshoots a walk bike group and also a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee, which is now working on a strategic plan for walking and bicycling in our community in order to make them safer and more accessible, whether people are using them for a mode of transportation or for recreation and fitness. And here to tell you about it is Stephen Berry. He is the coordinator of our local geographic information system.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I told Cora that I need hats with actual titles on them so that I can put them on when I talk to people. But and yes, I had a hand in the redistricting, and you can blame part of that on me if anyone has complaints with it. I think it went very well.
We really appreciate your help.
But as Cora mentioned, the Activity Coalition has a Walk by Clark County group, and one of the main partners in that organization is the Clark County Health Department. And just this past fall, the Clark County Health Department applied for and received funding to produce a master walk bike transportation plan for Clark County, and that is due in August of 2016. And the health department had, as part of its community health improvement plan, the goal of having a walk bike plan out by the last of 2017. So this will actually bring us a walk bike plan prior to that deadline set in the community health improvement plan. So what we're doing right now is we're just getting started on this plan. Thursday is our first actual meeting on the plan, where our main active members, such as Cora and myself and the health department, can get together and start planning the plan, figuring out what meetings we need to have the proper outcomes to produce the plan on time. And we're trying to identify stakeholders, which the schools are a major stakeholder in the community, and we'd like to invite you guys to, personally as a school board, invite you guys to get involved in our meetings, or agree to take reports from our meetings at your your particular meetings, and also continue to allow Cora and other school district staff to participate in those meetings, so that we can have as much communication and input from the schools as possible. And we have a lot of ideas that we're going to pitch in these meetings as far as how to engage the community, and probably our first public meeting on our plan to get public input will probably be in January or February, and at that time we'll be sending out all kinds of notifications to all the groups that we have engaged to try to get as much citizen participation as possible, because we have subject matter experts here in the community that could probably write a plan, but we want to do it right and try to get as much input from everyone as possible. And I'm just here to let you know about that and to invite you guys to please participate in our planning process. And at the end, when the health department has this master walk bike plan in hand, we will probably be coming back to you to show you what it's all about and to hopefully get you guys to at least say that's okay, that's a good plan, and that we'd like, you don't have to, we're not asking for funding at this time, and really that's one of the challenges we're looking into in our plan is how to fund improvements to sidewalks and biking opportunities. So anyway, but thanks for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about.
Have you given any thought to using students from our high school in the process?
Yeah, so we have. As a matter of fact, Ted Smith, who's the Director of Innovation in Louisville for Mayor Fisher, he gave a funny story about their visioning process in Louisville. They spent $2.5 million on a visioning process there, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I think he really meant it, that the only good ideas they got in that visioning process were from elementary school children. So all of the meetings they had with the adults seemed to be boxed. So yeah, we would like to engage the staff in the schools and perhaps come to the schools and have the kids kind of play a role in planning what they'd like to see. And unfortunately, these things take time, and when you're planning transportation for the community, it takes years to get things on the ground. So perhaps if they have an idea, by the time they're adults and old enough to appreciate them, that it will be built for them. So.
Well, I know that it has been voiced before. Some of the students at the Area Technology Center at one point were interested in trying to get involved with Rails to Trails.
Right.
And so that was a couple years ago. I'm sure the interest is still there.
Right.
And so there are probably junior high students, high school students who'd be able to, give some really good input.
Right.
And maybe even come up with ideas for students helping implement the plan.
Okay, yeah,
So-
most definitely. And that's an idea that we've had, and we will definitely follow up on that. As a matter of fact, the Remain North project, the Better Block project that happened in Winchester last month?
Recently.
One of these months. Recently, the comment from that was they were amazed by the number of high school volunteers that they had and how engaged they were. So, yes, we hope to use that resource for this.
I applaud what you're trying to do. I was in Minneapolis in October before it started snowing. It's actually a very nice city without snow on the ground. And boy, that was a really, really bike-friendly place. And
Right.
The bikes had their own traffic lights and traffic lanes, and I wasn't used to driving. I had to yield to the bikes on the intersection.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a very, very bike-friendly city. So, and I applaud anything that you're trying to do to get us up to speed there.
Okay,
So.
all right, thank you.
When do you meet?
Our next meeting is on Thursday at 10 a.m. at the Greater Clark Foundation, and we're calling them BPAC meetings, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. That's just kind of the tag we've given to the people who are really active, who are really doing the work, and we've decided to do every third Thursday, I think, is the schedule for our meetings from here until August when we have the plan written. So, and it'll be the third Thursday at 10 a.m. We'll change the location from time to time.
That just to show up?
Yeah, just show up, yep.
I wouldn't mind, I can't do it next Thursday, I know, but I wouldn't mind, if nobody else on the board wants to take part, I wouldn't mind going to the meetings and just seeing
That'd be
what
great.
we've got and seeing how
We'll be
that's
Alicia happy to assign you.
getting help. The old physical education teachers coming
Steve,
out
I'll
in
put you
here.
on the email
You're
list,
right.
and then you'll get all
I
the.
think Paul's already on it, so he can forward you the emails there. But and anyone who wants to get involved, including the audience, we have a Facebook page. It's Walk by Clark County, so you can look us up that way and get in touch there, and that's the way you kind of start. We're also connected to the Activity Coalition website, and you can contact us that way as well. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up is item number 5, fourth month attendance update. Mr. Holland.
Good evening. Take a look at month 4 attendance. We can start with that one. That's going to be our district attendance information study. And as we compile those, we take a look from month to month what our cumulative instructional hours lost, as well as our seat funding lost or cumulative seat funding lost with this particular one. After month 4, if you look on the very bottom, you see $464,736.08. Cumulative instructional hours lost, 132,318.75 instructional hours lost so far this year. If we could go to the next one. This is the comparison as we take a look at, we'll go ahead and say kudos to Conkwright. Their month 4 attendance, they get the flag once again, 3rd month in a row for Conkwright Elementary, so kudos to them. Justice, 3rd year in a row, they were just behind, very close. Both were over 95. District goal for the year is 95, and as we take a look there, comparison from last year to this year, 93.85% to 93.85% to 93.01%, 14-15 to 15-16. We could take a look at our next one.
Just before you leave that slide, what can we do to improve attendance at GRC?
GRC's, this particular month, we, as a matter of fact, Mr. Boland and I spoke about that today. We had a meeting about that today as well. And each of the, Mr. Christie has asked each of the schools to submit some attendance plans to take a look at what we can do individually at each of these schools to improve, both from a standpoint through the court system, but also incentive-based, and that's what we're looking at. How can we get the kids, the climate, the culture, those types of things in the building? GRC's percentage there is a little bit skewed from the standpoint that includes that one day that we had that was at 59%. That is, the state is going to let us, they have a new percentage, new category that will allow us to take certain percentages out. That's a Z day. The Z day is brand new. If you have a district that has threats made or also high illness, it's a new category that they can take that out. So GRC's percentage will come up slightly there once we get to the SAR, so we'll be able to adjust that. That's brand new. I think, going back to that question, I think the FAIR team has limited us a little bit this year with being able to get some of the students in, but I think if we were to really hit it and say, what can we do from an incentive-based standpoint, taking some things away. If students miss certain numbers of days, unexcused absences, those types of things, if we can actually maybe take some of that away, that's up for discussion. Mr. Boland and I are talking about that as of today.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Holland?
This is basically much of the same slide as before. We usually begin with this one. Shows Conkwright, pretty yellow. They were the leaders for the 4th month, and you can see how that has fallen month 1 through month 4. District average right now, 94.44. That'll come up a little bit as we take that, use that Z day and take that out. But our district average at 94.44, our goal was 95, so we are well below that right now. And our final one, I think we snuck one more in there. Happened to email it to folks today. Is it in there? That was the teacher attendance one by chance? Is it in there, Miss?
Yeah, we got put in, but they probably let us.
It is.
We stuck it in there. While they're pulling that up, ATC, 3rd month in a row, 96.64. Let's see, second place was preschool, 95.16. Kudos and congratulations to both of them. hopefully we'll find it here in just a second. The total, the district average for month 4 for staff attendance, 93.08%. How does that compare with 14-15 and 13-14? In 14-15 last year, our staff attendance was 90.94%. 13-14 was 93, so this is actually the highest of the 4 months, of the 3 years on month 4.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Holland. Let's see, next up is item number 6, Comprehensive District Improvement Plan, Ms. Considine.
Good evening. I feel like a traveling salesman. I have my purse and my coat. It's a little crowded.
A touch.
I'm bringing before you our district improvement plan, and it is quite lengthy. So our requirements from KDE, let me just kind of give you some preface a little bit. A proficiency goal, closing the achievement gap goal, graduation rate goal, CCR goal, and the new novice reduction, which KDE sprung on us in November. So closing the achievement gap is very similar to novice reduction, but different in a sense that novice reduction is only looking at novice students and all novice students, and your closing the achievement gap is looking at your groups. So we tried to differentiate some activities, strategies, based on novice versus closing the achievement gap, because a lot of those strategies are very similar. And that was kind of hard to determine in the month of November to bring this plan to you in December. But it is what it is, and I look for the two to merge eventually.
Right.
Is I think KDE's goal. But as of right now, we're working on those two different goals for novice reduction and our subpopulations. So other than that, I can go through the
I was gonna ask you to take
118-page
us through it.
document.
122.
Huh?
It's 122.
120, I'm sorry, oh, it's 118.
I was actually going to ask you to review, just hit the high points on everything, and the reason is, out of the superintendent evaluation process, the CDIP is something that we talk about. And
Right.
KDE would like us to have the CDIP as the driving force for change in our district, and it would like to see some connection between making fiscal and financial decisions and the CDIP.
Okay.
Okay? So one thing I think we as a board are going to need to do over the next couple of months is look at our board goals. That'll be visited tonight, but we need to make sure our board goals are aligned with the CDIP
Are aligned with
goals.
this,
I think by and
absolutely.
large they are, but I think there's some fine tuning that probably needs to be done there. The other thing is, we talked about looking at board superintendent goals quarterly as part of a formative evaluation process, not just for the superintendent, but the board and the district as a whole. And the CDIP, I think, is part of that.
Right.
So I would like to bring your points in the CDIP back quarterly.
Okay.
And, once we've got board superintendent goals and all the different goals we have in the district merged with the CDIP, we'll have one thing that we can look at. So, because we all want the same things. We have some different ways of getting there.
Yes.
We have some different ways of talking about it, but I think we all want the same things.
Okay.
So,
How about if I offer this? Not as a negotiation, but how about I bring a goal or two goals each month in the next month
if we can do
or
that,
two?
that would be okay.
Because I think tonight to go over the 128-page document is a little much.
Right.
But to break down the proficiency goal and kind of give you some more insight into those activities and strategies, closing the achievement gap, and then focus on CCR and graduation together, would that be more beneficial?
I'm fine with that. Okay.
Because we are dealing with a January 2nd
Right, gotcha.
submission, and I do have to have board approval on this plan so I can upload. The other thing is it has been on the district website for stakeholder feedback since
Right.
the 1st of December through emails or phone calls to central office. So we do have actually no phone calls or emails so far. Today's the 15th, but people are more than welcome to open it up, read it, and provide some feedback for us.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
You said it was on the website. Was this
Yes.
the new website
Yes.
that was fixed? Okay.
Mr. Napier, it is in the top, isn't it?
Okay.
In the top.
Okay.
And you click on it, and it should open up this document. We played with it, and it was working earlier, so.
Are there any high points you want to?
Yes, there are a couple of things in here. I did try to tie more of the funding sources to the plan this year, even through our federal funding, just because it would be helpful for you all to see, even though the money is been utilized already since July 1, for you to actually see how some of the funding is going. Some other high points, I think, that is something that we need to work on is the professional development pieces. And this year we focused a lot on ELA and math. This coming year we are going to be focusing on writing. We are looking at Lucy Calkins training for the summer. It is quite costly. And so this past summer we needed to do a revisit with Envisions for differentiation and centers and Tier 1, Tier 2 instruction. So this year, using that same funding source, we will look at adding Lucy Calkins. But I did not include that because we didn't have a quote at that time. So that will go into this plan because this plan is a living document. So when I come back with that, we'll have a actual total for that. We're probably looking somewhere around 12,000.
Other high points.
Other high points. Well, I could just start and go through the document real quick.
Actually, does anybody have any questions or any discussion on
I
content?
did, but she hasn't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
But it'll probably be one of your high points, too.
Okay.
It's the one that deals with providing a signing bonus for certain
Yes.
teachers.
Okay. So that is a new section. Let's just look at proficiency. Very quickly, a lot of these are already being implemented, but yet it is included in our plan. We're looking at adding some possibilities of curriculum specialist for next year. That is not in the current plan because we have sitting instructional specialists, but they may not be returning. So what we have in the proficiency part for our math and ELA are with current staff members, but that may change. Everything that's in the proficiency component is pretty much happening right now. There's nothing new there. If we go to the closing the achievement gap, and I'm going to skip equitable distribution because that's a goal that we have to put in that states that everyone's going to be highly qualified, which is a given. So we're on goal 3. And that's going to start on page 17, if you're following along. So the high points of that one is map assessment data. We're going to be providing some additional training for our principals. We're still hosting those regional workshops. We have another one coming in January. Special education leadership team meets monthly with schools. You will hear about bird dance in just a few more minutes. Schools are going to work on developing a 30, 60, 90-day novice reduction plan. We're going to start working on that in January. We did a lot of work on that in November with Linda Raines from KDE. We need to get the CSIPs completed in December, so we kind of put that on hold, but we're going to start working on that come January. Progress monitoring meetings are continuing. Interventions, we updated our response to intervention manual. Title I is a huge component of the CDIP this year. The way that we're utilizing Title I is somewhat different. And then we get to, do you have any questions so far on closing the GMIC gap?
Go ahead. We're good.
Okay. Then we should hit, looks like CCR is next.
Okay, did you hit my question on the math?
No. You had a math question?
Is that the salaries, the signing bonus? Is
That
for
was
math?
actually, no, that was an equitable distribution, I bet.
Oh, and we're
Yes.
not discussing that?
No, we can discuss it.
Oh, okay. I have it on the same page with my achievement.
Page 17.
stuff. Yes.
There we go. Title II, which is federal funding, is provided to each district to improve the quality of teachers and administrators. And within that, we've always had a line item for hiring incentives, for recruitment in areas of critical shortage. So,
Those areas.
yeah, in critical shortage areas. In the last 2 years, we will interview lots of math teachers at junior high and high school level. And before we are able to offer them a position, we lose them to other districts. So we are looking at using our Title II funding, which is completely within the federal government's Title II matrix, to provide a one-time signing bonus for 5 math teachers, 3 at GRC and 2 at Campbell. This signing bonus would be $600 gross. What we're wanting to do is give them a $500 signing bonus so that as soon as they sign a contract with us after July 1, they would receive a $500 bonus to try to lock in teachers in those critical math shortage areas.
So do we need to get our board policy in line with that regulation?
I looked at the board policy, Mr. Christie and I looked at it. We also looked at other districts that are already utilizing it, and their policy states the same as our policy. So I'm not sure, we would probably need to talk to KSBA about that.
We also looked at the second year, if we retain them, that there would be an additional one the second year for retaining, stay in the second year. But
And this is all legal, Madam Attorney?
When you look at the board policy, the section that you're referring to, is that the other
Compensations.
compensations?
I will tell you that upon reviewing, we're the only district that has the other compensation section in their policy.
Yes. Do you want me to talk to you? Okay. Yes, you are one of the only districts that has it. It's actually, there's a different policy offered by KSB that's given to most districts. Apparently, this one was chosen. My question to you is, I wasn't sure that this money was being paid through the general fund account.
It's not. It's through Title II.
Okay, and that's, well, and actually I didn't think it was. So, in my opinion, that probably doesn't fall under other compensation. I don't see why you can't change your board policy to include doing what you would like to do, but I don't think it necessarily falls within the board policy that you have today. I don't see a reason why this particular section necessarily needs to be included in this document. So you could sort of change your policy and then allow for this same payment at a different time. But I'm not sure that you have a policy that allows for it today.
Okay. And we're looking at a July 1. So for me, this is a planning purpose. I think that's why it's called a plan, because within that, you determine what your needs are, and so we have some time to maybe make that happen. Because it is very frustrating to lose great candidates within 24 hours because someone else calls them and they're going to make more in another district. But if we can do this one-time signing bonus and they get that money pretty quick, then that's something to someone fresh out of school that is maybe getting into a new apartment and, bills. I mean, we need to try to keep good first-year teachers and get them and then keep them.
Is another term available to call it besides a bonus? That word used to be
Right.
frowned on when it came to salaries.
We were using the terminology from Title II, from the document, from the matrix, but we could put it one-time signing incentive. Would that enhancement?
Yeah.
And the word bonus, the problem is from the Kentucky Constitution. So
Okay.
that's-
Okay.
What's the word though, Tia? I'm forgetting. It's not encumbrance. It's something fancy I had to look up. It's under Article 3.
Oh, I know what you mean. It is something exuberance or something almost.
Oh.
I can't remember, but you don't want to use that word.
Okay.
No one will know what you mean.
Okay.
Annulment or something, annulment or something.
Yeah.
You don't want to use that. No one will know what you mean.
That's all you meant.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So
Put that in
enhancement.
there.
Anyhow, that's our thinking, and we would like the opportunity to utilize that because it is in the matrix, and I know that other, not just districts and within our state, but among the nation, because it is federal funding. Okay? So,
Thanks for the clarification.
all right, so let's go to CCR. And CCR didn't change dramatically because what we were doing last year was working.
Right.
I know that,
What page are we? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, 25. 24 starts the goal, the strategy, first strategy is on page 25. For CCR and graduation rate, as of right now, we do not have, we just received graduation rate delivery target today from KDE. So for those, we had to determine a percentage at the district level, and we were 80.2. And about 3 years ago, we were in the 40s, 30s, 40s. So we've made a lot of progress. I looked at 95% by 2019 because you have to have for the goal a pretty long objective. I think that's obtainable. It's something that we're going to have to work at very diligently to get there. And then for this year, we're looking at trying to get to 85% for CCR. That is a big chunk.
Do you know how far we are right now?
We're pretty far away.
Yeah, okay.
Those percentages, but maybe after we talk about it, the numbers,
Yeah.
okay, I can't remember the exact number, but we're
About 242
100
down.
away, about 100 away.
114, yeah. So we've got about 240, something like that. So we're getting there. We're pecking away. And a lot of the CCR strategies and activities are the same. And if you have any questions, we'll direct those to Christy, because she's kind of over CCR.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then we get to graduation. And some of the high points of that is we're going to try to be 100% by 2019. We are getting there.
I'll throw one thing out, and that's this overlaps with other departments, but truancy intervention. I think, we have good programs in this district that recognize truants or kids with frequent absences that are at risk of becoming truant, which are at risk of becoming dropouts or behavior problems. So, I think we need to continue to work to strengthen those plans. So, in my office, I've come across a couple of issues that I've got kids that are truant or going to drop out, and if the sooner that can be recognized, the better. It shouldn't be to the point of, all right, the kid's got 22 days absent and he's going to go to court. It's something that needs to be caught before that.
But we actually have a district plan that starts much sooner than just close to 18 years old. It starts much younger. And,
We do, maybe implementation needs some work. Also.
Well, we also have a tool in Infinite Campus, Persistence to Graduation. And when you pull that, it gives you, from kindergarten on, it starts looking at their attendance, especially for kindergarten. But as the grades continue, by first, second, it begins to look at possible retention, how old they are. All of those factors play into that. And we have provided Persistence to Graduation training. It's an easy pull from IC, and they get information from that. So that is something that is available for our administrators and guidance counselors to pull that information instead of just waiting until they're 18. And then goal 7 is TEL Survey 2015. Looking back on the district as a whole, it looked like that only 68% of our staff had a strong or positive perception of the technology, the instructional technology. So we're wanting to move to 75% by 2017 when we'll do the TEL survey again. And it's really hard to do like a goal for that, like a 4 or 5 year goal, because it may not be a problem after 2017 based on the perceptions of our staff. So we included the instructional technology plan that we're currently utilizing at Baker, and we just threw that in there because it is something that I think the board has approved, and we want to continue to build on that. And then goal 8 is next generation professionals for principals, and we want to keep that in there because we require them to calibrate with TeachScape. We provide lots of training for them related to PGES, and that is just a kind of a continuing monitoring piece for us. Then goal 9, which is on page 45, is NGSS science standards. We have been alerted by KDE that science will again not be in the accountability piece this year. I think they're trying to figure out what type of assessment that they want to implement. We do know that social studies should receive some approval at some point, but it will be our old 4.1 core content will be assessed again for social studies this year. So we tried to include some science goals for us and to help teachers roll out the standards as we're currently teaching them, and then we will begin to roll out the new social studies standards to have somewhat of a plan. And then we get to our last goal. Do I have another one after novice reduction?
Yeah, social studies standards.
So, well,
That goes to science. So.
yeah, I just kind of threw those, I lumped those two together.
Well, and goal 6, I guess you kind of,
Was that teachers?
Yeah,
teachers, yeah.
PGE, so.
Teachers, well, for PGES.
Right, PGS.
Okay. That's pretty much par for the course for what we're doing. Those were not required by KDE this year, which is unusual, those 2 goals, which leads me to believe, that maybe that might evolve a little bit because we were supposed to have developed our baseline for effective teachers to go into this plan, and it is no longer included as a requirement. But I went ahead and put it in just because it's something that at the district level, we will continue to implement. It is our evaluation plan, and the 50-50 will be meeting again starting in February. At that time, we will have to do some updates, and we will have to add an additional district certified evaluation document as well, because we're still, certified district employees are working off the old document. So we'll be working on that. Do you have any questions about PGS for principals or teachers?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And then the last one is Goal 10, novice reduction, and that's the new one. And as of now, we do not have a delivery target that's been developed by KDE, so they told us to take how many novice students we had on K-Prep, and then by 2020, we want it reduced by 50%. So we were combined for 31.6 in elementary, 33.6 in middle, and 48.2 in high school. And so we want to reduce that by half. And then if you look at reducing it by half, we want to go down about 5% each year. Okay? So with that, we will continue to use MAP. And MAP provides us a lot of valuable information just as a universal screener and for determining those Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions. In January, we're going to show the principals how to look at some of those reports from some training that we attended so that they can pull it. That information is a much easier pull than when it was in IC. We provided all buildings with a novice list of students in their progress monitoring meetings in November from K-Prep and MAP. And so that is the data that they should be using to determine the group that they need to have a novice reduction for. So that is one of our strategies. Constantly updating them on RTI practices and research-based strategies are always important for administrators. We need those face-to-face because there's a lot going on with RTI. We are looking at Lexia reading, and if that caught your attention on page 48. Right now, last year, some elementary schools piloted Lexia reading. This year, they picked it up. They're paying for it. And so, the district is looking at researching the possibility of picking that purchase up for them next year based on an evaluation in May. How successful was Lexia reading? What growth did you see? Did it get kids out of Tier 2 back to Tier 1? I want hard data before we can determine a big purchase like that.
And what is the tool that you use to measure that?
Well, we can look at progress from fall map to spring map, and then Lexia provides you some data.
Okay.
But we will compare the two.
And, now that we don't have some of our assessments at the high school, how do we monitor what we're doing with those students?
Well, they have developed, especially with your EOC classes, they develop their own benchmark, their common assessments that they give to monitor. But without plan, it's very hard to monitor that. Now, your current juniors will have a growth piece because they took plan as sophomores, but after this year we will not. So the high school will not have they will not have growth data based on Explore Plan ACT. So that's going to be an issue. I spoke with Mr. Bowen to see if there was some type of assessment that we could administer to our sophomores for the spring, maybe even sometime around ACT, to get some data from them so that we know what we need to monitor and who's going to need benchmark prep. So we're looking into that. But right now, everything that's out there is very, very expensive, or it's an online And, you know, to test that many students on one day online, we might have to sit down and really look at the technology piece of it.
And is Explore, it's also gone for 8th grade,
Yes,
right?
yes, it
So
is.
what's the
We're using
assessment?
MAP, and that's, and what Katie recommended is that MAP is a very good universal screener for them, and it does give you proficiency cut scores, but for our sophomores, we do not have anything right now. And that was one thing we looked at, is maybe adding MAP back, I mean, you know, for high school, for reading and math. I don't know. We're still waiting to see what's going to come down from KDE, because for us to make a huge district purchase and we purchase something that eventually is not going to be beneficial to us, we need it to flow with what's coming from the department.
Any other questions from Ms. Considine?
Because then the last one was social studies. I kind of tied that
Right.
with science.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, a motion is in order to get Ms. Considine off the hook and improve the
Well, just
CDEP.
for this one.
I'll make a motion that we approve the comprehensive district improvement plan for, it's 2015, 16, is that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's for this year, even though we're in December.
Right.
Do we need to make an amendment to remove that?
Well, what I would like to, for you, if the motion could possibly say revised,
Okay.
because there will be a revised component to this. Just like last year, until I receive feedback from you all, then I can't really, I have to go in and change the plan.
Right.
So I always title it revised.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised.
Thank you, Mr. Fairweather.
Motion by Mr. Parado, second by Ms. Six. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And then in January, I'll bring proficiency and closing achievement gap back,
Okay,
if that's
good.
all right with you. And it doesn't have to be lengthy, but you can just get you up to date.
Okay. Yeah, my overall goal here is, you know, I think in the years past, this is something we approved to put it on the shelf, put it
Right.
somewhere, and it shouldn't be that.
Right. And we tried to put some progress notes in as we were going, so for activities and strategies that did not change, so that you could see this has been happening, this has been occurring.
Okay. You're next up for item number 7, which is Brigance screening.
Yes, kindergarten screener. This data was released December 9th by KDE, and so you can, and it's the very same format that we used last year. I wanted to go ahead and bring it to you in December. We didn't bring it in January last year because it was embargoed. Once it was released, they didn't release it until January. I'm not quite sure why, but they released it December 9th, so I thought it was nice to go ahead and get it to you early. And this is district data. Schools receive their individual data. So if you look at all students, we had 326 enrolled, and we tested 317. What happens is enrollment is our first day of school. We, believe it or not, by the time we did Brigance, 2 weeks later, we had already lost students. So we didn't have 100% participation rate. We also submitted some exemptions that of students that were not tested. Okay, some were medical, and so those were all approved by KDE. 65% of those kindergartners were ready based on the screener that was given to them. 35% not ready. If you see the breakdown, male and female is not that huge of it. It's about 9.5 points. We have our white, African American, Hispanic, 2 or more races.
It struck me that there's no ethnic gap. The gap is economic.
Interesting. Our free and reduced, 56.5, and students with disabilities, 42.2. And I'm the optimist, so I always look at I only look at the ready column. Okay. If you look at And that was all students. And then we go to state funded, and that means preschool. And last year, the way they were coded for prior settings is if it was a blended program, we counted them as preschool. Okay? Only the students at Generation Center were counted as Head Start. And so it's not included in here because it was less than 10. With less than 10, they will not give us the information. It's going to be stars. Okay? So when you see state funded, that's going to have some Head Start blends in there. Okay? So all students was 62.2, male 60, female 65. So there it was a closer percentage. White, and then for some reason the state did not report African American.
Was that because of numbers?
Must have been.
Right, numbers are too small, he might have.
And then Hispanic, 2 or more races. Free and reduced was 58, and students with disabilities, 46.2. The next section is our child care, and that is outside of the state-funded preschool. So any private, and this is based on when we do registration, they check where all they have attended. Okay. So all students, 78, male, female, it's quite a bit of a discrepancy there. And then you see that we only report on free and reduced and white.
And the home students.
Home students, students that are at home. Now, it doesn't mean, let me try to explain a little bit about prior settings, because if you are child care for a partial day, but then you go into a home setting, you get to count in both areas. Okay, so it's not just a true picture of they're only at home. You can count them multiple ways. So it's not the best data. I'm just going to be honest. In that,
So some of these 68 may be counted elsewhere as well.
yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues that try to,
And-
the kids
and I
don't
would
sort
rather-
neatly into the categories.
But there's a lot of good information there too,
Yeah.
though, because
Right.
it's significantly less
Yep.
Yeah.
ready.
Yes, and
if
that's
they
what we
have
want.
Partial,
Absolutely.
you know.
So you can see that, and what I would like to see, and I think everyone in this room would like to see, is that where they spend the majority of the day. If it's in the home setting, that you only count the home setting. If it's in childcare, it's counted as childcare. But the way the prior settings is set up in IC and through KDE is if you go to 3 settings that for the day, for the most of the year, then you get to count all 3. So you can see the difference between our home students.
Those numbers have been consistently lower since we started using this tool.
Yes.
So.
And then the other is students that we do not really get a lot of good data. They don't check anything. We're not really quite sure. When we first started doing this, these numbers were higher. And so we are doing a better job at tracking them and saying, okay, now where were they last year? Can you explain, So of those that we were unable to pinpoint, they were ready, so, which was kind of it's a nice bonus to be ready.
Well, one thing that I'm impressed about is that the way our community at least has tried to put an emphasis on early childhood. They reestablished our early childhood council. They're involved in the community. They're trying to help each other, help the other daycares, not just be a daycare, not just be a place where you deposit your child and come back and pick them up later. They're
It's a
trying
learning center.
to do things with the kids, and that just kind of shows in what we're seeing.
Right. We had a training scheduled with our council in December to go over some of the Brigance items so that everybody's familiar what is going to be considered kindergarten ready. We had to cancel just because we had a lot of crazy schedules. It's rescheduled for January.
Well, I know you had you filled the entire session.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really exciting that there's that much interest.
That they
in.
want to know.
Yeah.
So those are pluses. And it's nice to see progress, because when we first started.
Right, these numbers will probably be.
Yes.
Yeah,
And better than the
And
state.
well above the state.
and well above the state.
All right.
Any questions?
No. Thank you, Ms. Considine.
Okay.
You may sit down. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work in improving kindergarten readiness, especially those at the preschool. I think that really plays into those numbers importantly. So, all right, next up is item number 8, consider approval of early graduation for 7 students, Mr. Boland and Ms. Kincaid.
I'm not sure. I think I've got the first 4, I believe.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question about number 3, the transcript.
Yeah, I responded, or I sent that to Mr. Christie this afternoon. I think that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not get it.
The counselor, he had to go back and correct that transcript for the child, I think.
I guess I'll ask on number 2 then, was that one going to be for a December 2015 versus May 2016?
His is a 2016, in May of 2016.
Okay.
I'm not sure this answers the question I was asking. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it's not answering the question I was asking.
There were, I think on that transcript that you saw, the child in question had transferred from Bryan Station somewhere
Yes.
around Christmas and received half credits. And then on what came out, it was printed out of Infinite Campus, showed full credits had been, the
Yes.
counselor had not changed the weighting, the multiplier to 0.5
Okay.
in that
So
transcript.
the GRC credits earned should be 0.5 for the classes that the student also earned a 0.5 at Bryan
Yes.
Station. Okay.
Yes.
Other questions, Mr. Boland? Questions for Ms. Kincaid? No. Any questions, Ms. Kincaid? Going once, going twice? Okay, good. All right. All questions having been answered, a motion or any other discussion? If not, a motion is in order to consider approval of early graduation for 7 students as presented.
I'll make a motion that we recommend early graduation for the 7 students presented.
Motion by Dr. Griffith,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 9, consider approval of Family Resource and Youth Service Center School District Assurance Certifications, fiscal years 17 and 18. Mr. Holland.
Yes, just that. Just what Dr. Kudek said. This is a standard contract that we have, is the assurance and certification for funding that the Frisk Department of Frankfurt puts out to us. We get it approved the year before, put it on the green system for the website for the Frisk. So this is for fiscal year 16, 17, 17, 18, standard contract. We just need board signature, board chair signature, secretary signature, and the agenda item and so forth.
Okay.
Is this pretty much the same document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, same document, they have many changes.
Any questions, Mr. Holland? If not, motion is in order to consider approval of the Family Resource and Youth Services Center School District Assurance Certification for fiscal year 2017 and 2018.
I'll make a motion to approve Family Resource and Youth Services Center School District Assurance Certification for years 17, 18.
Okay, motion by Mr. Paradox.
Second.
Second, and we'll give that to Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Holland. Next up is item number 10, consider approval of band instrument replacement. Mr. Payne. Or Mr. Boland, as the case may be.
I'm here tonight, came before you. I met with Mr. Christie this morning to discuss this matter, and I would respectfully request that the board move this item to January, table it until January to let us come back to you with a more thorough proposal, as I'm not exactly quite sure what all is specified in the proposal.
Okay, so we had a detailed listing of instruments, so what you're saying is you're going to bring some other things back in addition to this?
Yeah, I actually, to be honest with you, never saw the original. I don't know what he asked for, so that did not
Okay.
come, did
We
not
want
come
it to
via.
also be more comprehensive to the arts and humanities program across the board, not just the music department. We want to look at the entire department needs.
Okay.
It'll address more of those needs.
Yeah.
And I will upload it this time, so I'll know what's in it.
Well, this was a follow-up to a request that they had given us before. We had approved part of it, but not all of it, and asked them to bring the remainder to us. Okay, I'll make a motion that we table it to the January.
I'll add
meeting.
one thing, but I'll allow
Okay.
that motion, I'll add one thing. I had made a request back when we approved the original 2 years ago that we get an inventory of all
Yes.
school-owned instruments. And it's hard for us to make decisions when we don't know what the full band is supposed to have. So,
And
that-
orchestra.
And orchestra, and that goes for all of our schools. So we need that information, so.
And I will ask this while we're doing this, because I did put the question out to Ms. Rohr. In addition to instruments, things that have been purchased for the bands and orchestra are chairs, music stands, music, things like that, and we probably need to know the status of what happened to all those. I know with all the shuffling of the schools, it's very possible that chairs that were the property of one group got moved to another school entirely. But that was always a big piece. You can have an instrument, but if you don't have a place to sit and don't have a stand to read your music off of, it's kind of hard to
We're looking at
practice.
that, and it's being taken into consideration in the furniture orders you want to see, but also all the, when they moved from what's now Campbell to the new high school, all new things were purchased out there. All the things that we had just ordered, they were probably a couple years old. Those were all maintained at Campbell, so there are chairs for the orchestra. I mean, the specific chairs, and we're getting an accurate counting of those too.
Okay.
All right, so the motion was on the table by Dr. Griffith to
Second.
table. Second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boland. Next, item number 11 will be heard after item number 15. So next is item number 12. That's change order number 1 for the preschool vehicular project.
Good evening. This request is a direct reference to the Open BG 1 for the preschool site acquisition vehicular road project. In consultation with the architects and the construction folks, they're recommending that we bring to the board a request for consideration of delaying the alternate project. The base bid project, which was the road out behind the current facility on that site, has been completed under schedule. However, due to weather conditions and traffic situations and erosion control regulations, the contractors and architects are recommending that the board consider their recommendation to reschedule that project to a later date, roughly around the end of March, first week of April, to where they feel that if we were to delay that at that time, we'd get a much better product from that project. The ground would be much easier to adjust and move, and the asphalt would be a better product following that. So they're recommending the board consider that schedule. There's been a schedule attached to the agenda item on your transmittal that shows that the work would begin around the end of March and end the first week of April. And then at that point, this BG would be complete.
So I just educate me a little bit here. We've had really good weather, except for some rain. So what was the thought process there?
Well, I think the contractors in particular felt that it was not beneficial to hurry the project in a manner to finish it before winter sets in, because we have gotten rain, and there are regulations that I'm not quite specifically familiar with regard to the city's regulation on erosion control. I'm sure Mr. Morrell might be able to reference that better than I could at this point. But realistically, there's not a real demand on us to get that completed in this time frame. As we go through the LPC process, certainly this project will be complete before the board submits any type of facility plan to the state for approval. We're not having any traffic issues at that facility at this point, so emphasizing the urgency to get that finished at the risk of compromising the quality of the product, I think is what the architects and contractors are asking the board to reflect on or to approve the extension of the contract. And of course, this is at no cost or additional cost to that BG, if you were to consider that.
And so the weather in end of March, beginning of April, you think will be much more conducive?
Well, no one knew it was going to be 60 or 70 degrees when they started this in December 1, and things were cooler, so hindsight's 20/20. One of the biggest issues was the regulations that Mr. Stump's kind of referring to for the city of Winchester over erosion control. And so trying to get the erosion control plan approved by the city, get the fencing and everything up, traffic out there in the area, especially with December programs that were being talked about. And then, like I say, not knowing about the weather, we first put this out there, or the contractor requested this, really concerned about getting started, having a difficulty with the parking lot areas being opened up, getting rain, you know, it being so cool, not having much sunlight. I mean, if you have rain and then you have wind and sun, you dry the soil up much quicker to be able to get back on it and get the work done.
Okay.
And so they were just concerned, I mean, it's a combination of all three things that kind of work together that's listed in the change order. And the contract, like, again, no additional requests for monies from them for this extension. And so we put this out there on the agenda. Of course, I think maybe in hindsight, if it hadn't been for the regulations and the erosion control, they'd love to have gotten this done. But I think it still is a possibility. We did, you know, run into some poor soils on the, you know, construction of the roadway, and so we're aware that, you know, we don't get some drying conditions, we could have a similar situation on the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Stump or Mr. Monroe? On motion, is order to consider approval of change order 1 for the preschool vehicular project.
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the preschool vehicular project.
Motion by Ms. Hicks.
Second.
Second by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 13, pay estimate number 8.
This is our monthly pay estimate for the Campbell renovation project on the construction side from Codell Construction Contractors and Suppliers in the amount of $222,449.40. As we have been practicing in the past several months, I've attached a summary of the work that has been completed to your transmittal that was available for your review, and we're asking the board to approve the pay application.
Any questions from Mr. Stump on pay application number 8? If not, motion is order to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve Codell pay estimate number 8, Campbell Junior High School construction project in the amount of $222,449.40.
Motion by Mr. Paradox.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 14, new furniture quote from School Specialty for the Campbell Junior High School construction project amount of $189,410.
Roughly 2 years ago, the board approved a furniture application and payment appropriation for furniture at Campbell when they first moved into that facility. As we are approaching the finalization of the renovation project in the C wing of Campbell, we are becoming conscientious of the need to furnish, to finish off the furnishing of that building for the R wing. And in order to address any furniture needs for the R-wing move, we would need to address that at this point so that the ordering could be made and the furniture made available for the summer, this coming summer, when we're expected to move into the newly renovated R-wing as well. So our plan at this point is to move the furniture that we currently have from the R-wing to the C wing over the holiday break, and anticipate new furniture to replace that furniture in the R-wing when that's renovated, with new furniture to be placed in the R-wing when the summer comes. We've gotten an estimate on generally what that furniture may cost the board. We had the school conduct an inventory in-house. I've attached that also to your transmittal to see how that was conducted. So what we would like to ask the board to do is consider the appropriation for the purchase of this furniture up to the amount that's quoted on the bid, or on the furniture quote, and allow us to go in and reassess the school's assessment of furniture, because when we look at the furniture that was purchased on the first round 2 years ago, I would like the opportunity to go into the school and assure that their assessment is accurate and that some of this furniture is not elsewhere in the building, and that what they're asking for is actually what is needed. But for tonight's purposes, we'd like to ask that the board approve up to this amount of furniture that was generated through the assessment of the school.
So what will eventually happen to the inventory here that's being moved to C-Wing? Will it stay in C-Wing?
The furniture currently in our wing over this holiday break is going to be moved, and some in D-Wing. We're getting all of the new furniture that was purchased 2 years ago and moving that over to the newly renovated C-Wing. That will end up having, our wing has to be vacated for the abatement. So that will be an empty wing. This furniture request is to fill that particular wing in the summer when when the construction project is completed.
Okay, so what eventually happens to what's being moved? Is it going to stay?
It's going to stay in C-Wing. Yeah, this would be for your R wing.
Okay.
And any other furniture that might be needed to finish off any other classrooms in the building.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if we approve this quote, we're not approving these individual numbers here, these, like, the $325 for a chair and 18 chairs.
Mm-hmm.
We're just approving a total, and you're going to...
That's what we'd like to ask you to do. And when this furniture came 2 years ago, quite frankly, much of the desks or chairs ended up in different areas in the building, like the cafeteria, for example. But rather than pulling chairs out of the cafeteria and leaving that in need and putting them in classrooms for the furniture you bought 2 years ago, we'd like to go out there and assess what the need is up to this amount. This is what the school is asking for. And if the board will approve up to this amount, then we'll go out and assess and either support what they're asking for or modify it in some capacity based on what we find when we follow up with an inventory.
Will you let us know what
Absolutely.
which way you've changed things? And
Absolutely.
So we're not really approving the quote. We're just approving the amount.
I think that's correct.
Not to exceed that amount.
Now, School Specialty is a state-approved vendor through KEDC, so we can use this vendor without bidding, is my understanding.
Also, that's going to be my next question, is does this need to be bid out because of the size of the
that's
business?
what the information said, that we didn't have to.
With the KEDC.
And this is being funded out of general fund.
That's what's being asked at this point.
Provide me a summary. This is not the first time we've been asked to fund the Campbell renovation out of general fund. Can you give me an idea of how much money we have taken out of general fund and put towards the Campbell renovation?
Well, you've spent close to $100,000 on camera systems at Campbell thus far. Most of your change orders have been through the contingency, with the exception of a few that ranged from $6,000 or $7,000. I think there might have been 2 or 3 of those that you've chosen to fund out of the general fund as opposed to the contingency because of the tax savings and the markup savings. And I think there's probably been 15,000 or so in that ballpark that the board has chosen to fund other than with contingency. But at the end of the project, then the board, if they have any contingency left in that project, will be able to do as they choose to do, either reimbursing the general fund again with that money that you've invested or reinvesting that in that school or Baker, because Baker's a part of that BG1 process as well. So you'll have a lot of options at the end of the project, which will be this coming summer, to either recoup your money or to reinvest that. Right now, you have approximately $230,000 in your contingency on that project. If you were
How
to,
much have we spent out of general fund so far? You said $100,000 plus whatever we approved tonight.
I think the quote was $93,000 for the cameras. You had $7,000 for a little better than $7,000 for window blinds, and I think there may have been 1 or 2. I'd have to get back with you if you wanted me to get back on those change orders. I can't pull them up from memory, but I think there was another couple that were a few $1,000s, less than $5,000. That you've agreed to pull out of general fund. But most of your change orders have come through your contingency, and those change orders addressed both wings. the same needs in both wings. So they will not be coming back in front of the board for window blinds or plumbing or whatever change orders that painting walls and different pipes and things that you've approved up to this point. But I do anticipate some additional work to be addressed and the board to be addressed through contingency.
Correct me if I'm, okay, go ahead.
Where we don't know anything about the sanitary sewer lines, we want to be able to scope those and reassess those lines in the C wing as we did, in the R wing as we did in the C wing. We don't want to find that we're renovating a building without considering our sanitary sewer lines. It's just good practice. Typically, our maintenance department's picked up the cost of renting the scope, scoping the lines, but if there's any repairs that need to be done, such as that we did in the C wing, there was about a 15-foot section we needed to replace. That came through contingency, through change order and contingency. There's some roof issues up there that we have a few leaks on that roof that we might need to address fairly soon. And, cameras. I mean, we may need some additional cameras. The board chose to buy 2 servers for that building. We haven't really appropriated any camera systems to the D wing, which is the middle wing. At some point in the future, we may need to consider that.
Were we going to use any contingency monies for our IT plan?
Not from this project.
Not from this project?
There's some contingency monies that's coming back on some BG4s passed from previous projects.
Okay, thank you.
We've gotten one of those projects that were forward, we've gotten one of those back, and KD chose to process the first one, being the one that there was no money coming back to us. That's the one that they completed first. I did get an email from KD that says that we could expect, or from some of the others, that we could expect that paperwork to get completed probably within this week. So I'm anticipating that we're going to see, and you're talking a pretty good chunk of money. Another project, Ms. Hicks, that comes to mind is the front canopy system is scheduled to be replaced. It covers roughly 150 50 linear foot in front of that building. We have a lot of damaged concrete beyond that going around sidewalks and curbing. I expect a change order to be proposed for replacing all of that concrete gone around through there. So there's a number that I'm sure will come in front of the board over the next several months. But you have $230,000 in that account.
Okay. So like I said, we've approved a couple of things out of general fund. The general fund is how we pay teachers and personnel, not build buildings. So, all right. Any other questions for Mr. Stone or discussion? Not. Motion is in order to consider approval for the new furniture quote from School Specialty for the Campbell Junior High School construction project in the amount of $189,410.
I'll make a motion to approve the new furniture quote from School Specialty for the Campbell Junior High School construction project with an amount of $189,410.
Motion by Mr. Farrago.
I'll second it.
Second by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is the abatement bid for the Campbell Junior High renovation.
I almost hate to present this one to you.
I need to recuse.
Go ahead, Judy. When you come back in, bring Mr. Howell on the mayor, because they're, or yeah.
He's right
no,
there.
okay. You've been very patient, Steve. Thank you.
You can't see through that podium.
No, I can't see through the podium.
Did you get out? This is the second round of abatement that is necessary to continue with the construction project at Campbell Junior High School, particularly in the R wing. We've been working with Air Source Technologies, as we have for the abatement in the C wing, to put out to bid the work for abating that project in C wing. One of the contingencies for bid was that we found a company was able to assure that they could complete the abatement in both the upper and lower wing of R over the 2-week period of time that we're out for the holiday break, so that we're not abating while we're having school. In discussion with the superintendent, we felt that we would also like to include the area in front of the principal's offices as an alternate, which is not a necessary area to be abated and retiled. That is contingent upon the construction project. However, it was just very obvious to us that that area is a very high-traffic area. It's an area now that's more exacerbated because of the finished tile product facing the sea wing in that area, down that vestibule, and the white tile in the entry foyer area. Here you have this middle area of brown tile that is pieced up, piecemeal. You can't find the same matching color, and quite frankly, it's not very attractive. So we thought that we could get that quoted through the bid process just to get an idea of what it would cost to abate that, and then later to retile that so that it was more consistent with the tile that was laid in the reconstructed areas, and match that tile, because that is one of the areas where you have your highest volume of traffic with public, with parents, and with staff, et cetera. So the alternate is an alternate. I mean, it's not a necessary area. However, we feel we'd like the board to consider that area because of what I just described. So we have received 5 bids. We've included those 5 bids in your packet. The big tabulation sheet, which summarizes all of the bids, and the bids for both the base bid, which would be the R wing, and the alternate area, which would be all of that area in front of the principal's offices, not extending into the middle hallways or down past the steps going to the upper auditoriums, but in that general area, up to the steps that you come into that area, all the way to the hallway that for the newly reconstructed areas. So the bids are before you, and we'd ask the board to consider a bid for that project.
I have a quick question, and I know it's related to, but not, part of, within the offices, are there any areas that are exposed or any tiles that need to be replaced there?
Yes, and I think we can change up to, was it 3 square foot, Paul, that without having someone formally come in and abate? 3 square foot at a time. And yeah, there are some tiles actually throughout the building that are chipped or dented or in not perfect shape, but
this made the most sense, not to do the whole office area just out in front of the office.
Well, the time was the factor on that.
The
We've got to be
time.
able to do it. We've got to be able to abate it and get it put back before we come back from the holiday.
We have 2 weeks.
And we can do the inside the office and the foyer too.
So this might come back to us later.
Yes.
if that, so it's the board's pleasure, certainly. But we're lucky to, yeah, they also have a little area in the back of the building where the back entrance areas are, where they're putting that vestibule in.
Right.
There's a small area that has to be abated there. So the first thing that they do when they come in on Monday, the 21st, would be abate those two areas if the board approved the alternate, and then immediately go to the wing so that other contractors could continue the work in either retiling or continuing to install the vestibule and the sidewalk in the back of the building in time before students came back on the 4th.
Superintendent's recommendation for
We do.
Grigsby.
Any issues with Grigsby contracting them being low bid?
I'm sorry.
Any issues with Grigsby contracting in terms of work they've done on
Absolutely.
their bid significantly less than the others?
Absolutely not. I was told that the reason that why they're so significantly lower is that they really want the work. And they're actually the company that abated our C wing previously, and we've had no complaints or concerns about that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion? Not, motion is in order to consider approval of the abatement bid for the Campbell Junior High School renovation project. The winning bidder would be Grigsby Contracting LLC for a base bid of $61,895 with approval of an alternate bid, $2,489.
So moved.
With both, right?
Motion by Mr. Parado,
Second?
second by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye. Item passes four. Any opposed? Item passes 4-0 with Ms. Hicks recused.
Someone.
And then, let's see, item number 11.
Give another one in.
Can she come back for that? Or?
It's the change order.
It's putting tile. It has nothing to do with the abaters.
This is way in town, instead of taking it up.
She's back. Somebody got her.
Okay. Change order 7-1 to carpet decorators.
Okay, this change order request would would be addressed out of the construction contingency funds. It is a request to consider us to use contingency funds to retile the floor in front of the principal's area that you just agreed as an alternate to be abated. So it's roughly $1,761 to lay the VCT tile down that would match that they used in the newly reconstructed wings, and another $2,359 and additional $312 to replace all the stair treads going up to those principals' office. I don't know if I'm sure you have noticed those stair treads. They're in awful shape. And to replace the tile and make that look really nice without replacing those stair treads, I think it would be unjustified. So the total, $4,433.55 would put all new tile on that floor that was abated and all new stair treads. The stair tread's up a little bit because the stair tread width is a little unusual width. It's 12 foot 2 inches, and the sections of stair tread come in 6 foot sections. So we had a little bit of a challenge with getting treads customized to fit that to where it would fit. It would look professional and not gobbled up, for lack of a better word. But that amount would replace the tile and all of the stair treads on the front entrance area going up to the principal's office.
And funding for that is out of capital outlay.
That's what out of contingency, construction contingency. That's what we're recommending.
Any other questions for Mr. Slump? If not, a motion is in order to consider approval of change order 7-1 to carpet decorators for the Campbell Junior High School construction project in the amount of $4,433.55 to come from contingency.
I make a motion to approve change orders 7-1 to carpet decorators for the Campbell Junior High School construction project for the amount of $4,433.55.
Motion by Mr. Peridot.
Second.
Second by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Stump. Next up is item number 16, acknowledgement and/or approval of the pilot agreement for the industrial revenue bond agreement between the City of Winchester and Catalent Pharmaceuticals.
And I need to.
You need to recuse.
Again,
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
sorry. Thank you.
We have some guests with us this evening. I think everybody recognizes Mayor Bergner. If not, he's not back there shaking the hands. Todd Denon is our industrial development person, and Mr. Steve Havel is, what is your title? General Manager. You're General Manager of Catalent.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity. I know the evening has already been long and is going to be a lot longer, I understand. So I'll try to be as brief as I can. We've come before you tonight for an unusual request. We have engaged in a conversation with Catalent. And where did he go? And Steve Havel going back to July and August of this year. Catalent has been an important industrial citizen in this community for over 50 years, approaching 20 years. And they have been very successful. They have an employment level of approximately 425 people. They plan to, in the very near term, add an additional 300 people. And the way they're proposing to do it is to ask the city, and the city has given second reading on the bond ordinance, to sell $140 million worth of industrial revenue bonds. When the bonds are sold, the property, in effect, goes off the tax rolls in its entirety. And what the city and Catalent have been doing for the past several months is we have been negotiating what is referred to as a payment in lieu of tax agreement, or a pilot agreement. Now, this is not a unique situation even to Winchester. I'll go back historically just a bit. The public may remember that when Rockwell came to town in the mid-'60s, early to mid-'60s, that there was an industrial revenue bond issue that was issued by the city, even though the Rockwell facility was outside of the city limits. Rockwell made pilot payments to the city at that time, but I don't believe made any pilot payments to any other taxing districts. Rockwell paid off the bonds, And when the bonds were paid off, the property reverted back to Rockwell, and Rockwell then gave the property to the Clark County Fiscal Court. The Fiscal Court sold the property, and it was that money that was used as the original seed money for the Clark County Community Foundation, not the Greater Clark Foundation, which is the hospital transaction. So this is a variation of that. In that instance, they were non-taxable industrial revenue bonds. These are taxable industrial revenue bonds. And so what we are before you tonight on, more specifically, is acknowledgement and consent with regard to the pilot agreement that's been negotiated between the city and Catalent. Now, the school board is not a party to that agreement. You're not being asked to be a signatory to that agreement. But this transaction had to be approved by a state agency called the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority, and that approval was given last Thursday. And one of the conditions was for the school board to consider the matter that you have before you, even though you're not a party to the agreement. The state wants the school board to be fully aware of what's being proposed. So that's the purpose tonight. I can tell you that in our neighboring county, in Montgomery County, I did some calling around when this was first proposed, and I can tell you that Sandy Romanesco, who used to be the tourism director here and is now the economic development person, which is analogous to what Todd does, told me that in years gone by, there were 3 industrial revenue bonds that were approved in Montgomery County. And when those occurred, that the property taxes for those 3 factories went to 0. And so that could have been done in this instance. But to Catalent's credit, they came to the table and said, we want to be a good corporate citizen. We want to pay our fair share. We are going to expend a fair amount of expenses, getting from 425 employees to 700 employees. As we all know very well, the difficulty that industries have in terms of filling vacant positions is a difficult situation. And they're going to be expending a good deal of money internally to try to recruit and retain qualified employees. These are good paying jobs. Wages and benefits combined will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $52,000. So this is an important project for the community. I can tell you that Catalent and Steve can speak more directly to who Catalent is and what they do. They're a national corporation. They're headquartered out of New Jersey. And if we are not able to achieve an agreement with Catalent, they can just as easily take these jobs somewhere else. So we have worked extremely hard with regard to this particular project. As I say, the city did an inducement resolution at the end of November. We did first and second reading on the industrial revenue bond issue. We actually had the second reading this morning, and literally the last piece in this puzzle, if you will, is the action that's before the board tonight. I'm going to ask Steve to talk a little bit about Catalent, and then I'm going to come back to the podium and spend some time talking about the pilot agreement and what is provided and what it will mean for the Board of Education. So, Steve, if you would spend a little time where you are, yes, talking about your company and what's being proposed.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, Dr. Kudak, other esteemed members of the Board of Education. Thanks for this opportunity to be able to share a little bit about our company and what we're requesting here today. So first, the reason and the purpose of my visit today is to ask for an approval, as the mayor articulated, for us to be able to move forward with this opportunity to create an additional revenue bond that will help our organization continue to expand its footprint here in in Clark County and also be able to create 300 jobs that I think has really been a great opportunity in the county over the first 6 years that I've been here. So I joined Catalent in 2009 after leaving Eli Lilly with a successful career. And in that time frame, we were less than 300 employees, and today we're over 400 employees. We have taken individuals that were displaced out of other industries during that decline from 2009 all the way to today. We've made investments where we said originally we were going to make $46 million worth of investments to build a facility that's going to be able to be capable of expanding, and we actually ended up spending $52.5 million in that. What we'd like to be able to do is continue that process and add an additional $62 million investment to our business. And so let's talk a little bit about what that business really is. So we are in advanced delivery technologies for a variety of different pharmaceutical companies that contract with us to help solve complex dissolution, assay-related issues that allows medicine to be absorbed within your body. The business I'm personally responsible for uses synthetic polymers and a variety of other technologies that are equipment intensive as well as very complex. And what this medicine does, if you've ever seen the commercial where a patient says you can take 6 of these or 1 pill of this, we make the 1 pill of that, right? And in order to do that, one of the benefits, it's not only cheaper for the individual to take medicines that are extended release or modified release technologies, but it's more efficacious for them as a patient because that medicine stays in their body the entire time. And our company focuses on these complex delivery mechanisms. Other technologies that we have deal with using soft gel. So if you've ever had a tablet that seems like it's filled with an oil, that's another delivery mechanism that we have that takes things that are very insoluble inside of your bodies and makes it soluble and safe for patients to be able to take. So we focus in a variety of different areas, and as the mayor indicated, we do have businesses around the world. We think investing here in Clark County, and particularly in the city of Winchester, makes a lot of sense for us. We've been able to grow this business, add a lot of jobs. The mayor was off actually a little bit by the, in the last 100 people that we hired, the average wage plus benefits was $53,000. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I probably gave you that 52. But that's a high-paying job. And when we go to Frankfurt and we look for economic incentives, we see a lot of jobs that are over there that are in the $18,000 with benefits, $22,000 with benefits. But here, people in this county that live in this county that go to these schools can have a great career. We have a lot of GRC graduates. Out of the last 100 people that we hired, 30% live in this city and in this county. And we believe over the next 300, we should be able to make that even a higher percentage as this becomes a more attractive area for people to be able to come. I think a couple of things, that I talked about early on. Since 2011, we've hired 100 jobs. And as we make these types of investments and these types of investments in our infrastructure, it creates jobs from being able to build a facility, also jobs around the occupancy tax. And we believe that over the next 20 years, or in the first 10 years, that we'll be able to hire those 300 people. And as they say in a variety of different games, we have some skin in the game. If we don't, there's a clawback for us. So if we don't do what we think we're going to do, then we have penalties associated with that. And as the mayor indicated, as a son from a lifetime educator and also a salesperson as my father, there's only one other person that I think is as good of an educator as my mother, and she's sitting right here, and I always recognize her and everything because I think she gives more passion than any other teacher that I've ever met, and so did my mother. So I learned early on that education was an active is an active activity versus a passive activity. And what I would say is when I first started here, we were watching what was going on in the community. And over the last 6 years, we have become very active in the community. And I think what I'd like to be able to do is just share a couple of those things, how it impacts our community and how it makes it better. So just recently, we picked up 73 children in the Angel program from the Salvation Army. Those are 73 children in our community that will now have gifts that wouldn't have had gifts otherwise. We've also held benefits from a chili luncheon and also collected 300 books from individuals that work at Catalent and an additional $1,000 that we were able to donate to the Clark County Preschool Library. What a great thing for us. We've donated hours, 10 hours of their time leading workshops focusing on interviewing and job search skills for displaced workers in partnership with Jubilee Jobs in Lexington, Kentucky. We've donated approximately 1,200 hours over the last 4 years, mentoring children at Concrete Elementary and then later on into Campbell Junior High in conjunctions with the Partners of Education. We've held a benefit bake sale and raised $900 to purchase supplies and create 21 support baskets for families at the Ronald McDonald House in Lexington over the Easter holiday. We've donated over 120 pints of blood just in this year, and so we support our community in a variety of ways, not only just from an educational perspective. We partner with women's networks and committees to participate in charity walks to raise money for the Bladder Cancer Society. We also have 20 hours of time serving as judges for science fairs at the School for Creative and Performing Arts in Lexington, Kentucky. We've donated 30 hours of time planting vegetable gardens and flower gardening residents at 2 local Winchester nursing homes and rehabilitation. We've collected a variety of different things for people in Johnson County during the floods earlier this year, as well as providing money. We've provided time for the Habitat of Humanity, and one of the things I would say is those are paid times for my employees. It's not just the volunteer piece, but we pay them to do that so that it takes one burden off of them that they have to take away from work or do it elsewhere. And that's important to me to make sure that we're constantly giving back to our community. We've held benefit auctions and collected $1,500 to benefit the children at the Hope Hill Children's Home in Montgomery County, Kentucky. We donate food for a variety of different causes, as well as local clothing for people in the Kentucky homeless centers. We've partnered with a variety of different things to help breast cancer awareness. We donate, or in the process of donating, over $10,000 of microbiology equipment to GRC so that it can use more people in science, because we believe that that's important for folks coming out to have a strong science and background that will make them strong candidates for being able to come forward with us. All in all, we've done a lot of different things. I think a couple that I'm proud of is personally, because it always means that the leader has to take a leadership position to be able to do things. But we've been the 2013 Partner in Education Company of the Year. We were the 2015 Partner in Education and Individual Mentor of the Year, which is an employee by the name of Joy Plank. And then lastly, we were recognized as the 2015 Company of the Year in Clark County. We have members. I chaired the Work Readiness Committee with Cora, and we're successful in establishing Clark County as one of the few counties in the Commonwealth to receive that prestigious award, and we're actually in the process of recertification for calendar year 2016. We have members that lead our manufacturing operation that are partners in education on the advisory board. We have partnerships in education members around to be able to support. We have the Project Lead the Way GRC Advisory Board, where our associate for HR has actually been a participant on that and a member of that critical board. So what I would say in 2009, it was a very passive approach to helping support our community, and today it's a much more active approach. Today I approach with you just a few facts that you can see on the board that I think are relevant. Our property taxes and the school contribution from 2010, which is the first year that I came, this is what economic development can do. We started off with a payment of $28,000, and actually it continued on through roughly about $26,000 in 2012 to $172,000 in 2015. That's what economic development can do. Adding jobs stabilizes families, allows people to raise their children and make sure that they're raised in the right way with the right type of education. We believe that we can provide that level of stability. We think this is a good fit. We think this is a great place to invest. And as we continue to look at future investments that include R&D structures, it will allow us to hire more and more individuals with PhDs that, again, will make this part of the country more of a pharmaceutical and life science basis and provide options for people in this community to do something different than what maybe they had 20 years ago. So certainly I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you, and if there's any questions, I certainly will share those, but want to just thank you for your time tonight. I know it's been a long evening, and very grateful to be able to present some of the things that we've been able to do. Absolutely. I think, as the mayor said, one of the challenges in this is that we are a global business. Capital is always tight. This allows us to invest. Within the pilot agreement, what you'll hear is, we've allocated, a significant amount of money that would be added to our current payments. We're not asking for relief on the 2015. We're asking for, if we don't make those investments, then those are investments that wouldn't be taxable anyway. So we think this is a great place to be, and we would ask for your partnership in this economic development that will allow this company to continue to increase its footprint here, increase the opportunities for members of our county and the surrounding ones. Thank you very much.
All right. Let me drill down just a bit in terms of the actual pilot agreement. Let me say a couple of things. First of all, with regard to industrial revenue bond issues, from the city standpoint, the ordinance itself in big bold print makes it abundantly clear that no local tax resources are obligated or will ever be obligated in terms of the repayment of the $140 million bond issue. That is the responsibility of the company. The land, there's a trust established. The land comes into the name of the city. There's a lease between the city and Catalent pays an amount equal to, or actually the purchaser of the bonds pays an amount equal to the retirement of those bonds. I want to go a little more detail with regard to Catalent and what their taxing situation is. And some of these numbers, I think, have been provided to the school board. In 2012, in terms of all taxes that Catalent paid, in terms of property taxes, real taxes, from the state all the way through the library, they paid $39,000. In 2015, that number went to $314,000. In terms of both real and tangible, the number was, the total amount that Catalent paid was $394,000. When you take out the state, and the state has already approved a total abatement with regard to the state taxes. So when you drill it down and come down to a sort of a baseline number, the baseline number that we are dealing with is $295,725. Catalent has agreed to make payments for the first 10 years of the term of this bond of $20,000 per year for 10 years to the school board for the schools to use in any form or fashion that you wish. We have a trigger agreement. The trigger is that if the jobs are not created within the first 10 years of the term of the bond, then Catalent has in effect a trigger or a penalty in terms of the city taxes of 5% compounded annually beginning with year 11 through the balance of the term of the bond. For the taxing districts, special districts, and the taxing districts, in year 8, there would be a 5% built in, which would not apply to the schools. And the reason for that is that the schools are going to get that $200,000 on the front end. But for all the other districts, it would be 5% compounded annually based upon the baseline number. In addition, I would just point out that the Board of Education receives approximately $36,000 now in terms of the electric utility charge that you have of 3%. Catalent uses about $1.2 million in electricity. That number will grow to $1.7 million, which means that number of $36,000 will grow to $51,000 over the term of the bond. This is essentially, with very little deviation, where we started off. It was important to Mr. Havel to make it clear that they're not asking to go to zero in terms of their property taxes. Again, in our neighboring county and in other counties, there have been situations. In northern Kentucky, not too terribly long ago, there were some communities that basically did these industrial revenue bonds, and they went to zero on all property taxes. That is not what is proposed here. If Catalent doesn't create the jobs, then there is a trigger or a penalty, and if this deal doesn't go forward, then you'll be exactly where you were. I know this has been a lot of information. I have Todd Denham, and the hour's late, so I'm going to hold Todd in the event there are questions. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is an important project for the community, 300 jobs, good-paying jobs. The state, again, you're not a party to the agreement, but the state specifically said they wanted the school board to acknowledge and indicate support for this activity. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? So it's $20,000 a year plus the 2015 taxes for the next 20 years.
That's correct.
All right. Which is a significant increase for us. So, okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
Just want to say, just appreciate Callan's involvement within the school system and hope that you use your company to encourage more students that we have in math and science so we can retain those students there. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's our goal. How can we make more engineers, more mathematicians, statisticians? Every opportunity we have when we engage with young adults, we want to make sure that we set good examples. And then, one of the things we didn't talk about is that we do provide tours in the facility once they're 18 years old, to be able to see what making medicine is about. It's a comfortable, environment, much more so than some of our other industries around here, from a temperature perspective, from a heavy lifting perspective. We need people to be engaged, mentally as well as physically in that, and we think it's a great place for us to be. This is a huge, again, investment for us to be able to spend this. And, as most people know, there's a lot of challenges from regulatory approvals to products that you're working on that just fail to meet the endpoint for patients. So there's a lot of challenges here, and that's one of the primary reasons for us, again, asking this. But we certainly, they're the most important people to us because of the future of what we have.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, a motion is in order to acknowledge and approve the pilot agreement for the industrial revenue bond agreement between the City of Winchester and Cadillac Pharmaceuticals.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge and approve the pilot agreement for the industrial revenue bond agreement between the City of Winchester and Cadillac Pharmaceuticals.
Motion by Dr. Griffith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, let's take a 10-minute recess.
Please. I'm going on a second bottle of water.
I've got unsweet tea, so it's like.
Arlene, what was the order number?
8:53 PM. Next item is discussion. Are you ready, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
Locked up, not ready.
Next up is discussion of school needs list.
I asked that to be put on. I just wanted to mention to the board that you will be receiving, basically, we're compiling a needs list at each of the building, and it'll come to us in 3 different ways. First way is by our architects that's doing the facilities survey in each of the buildings. The principals, some of them probably have already met with architects. If not, they will be before Christmas. The architects will meet with every individual principal and walk their building and gather at least the major facility needs that would need to be addressed by the LPC. So that list will come to the LPC. That's one list you're going to get. The second way is going to be as I meet with the principals or they do a needs assessment that will cover things inside their building that may not be addressed by the architect. It may be other smaller things that would not be addressed on the LPC. So that'll be generating a building needs list. The third way that the list will be coming to us is we do our progress monitoring meetings. We're meeting with the principals. That's where we're addressing the programming needs. Programming, academic needs in the building, and sometimes that leads into the technology needs too. But there could be some overlap in some of these between the architecture and the technology. They'll be looking at infrastructure, and what we'll be talking about in the progress monitoring meetings is more the technology, the programs that they run, those things. So I will be coming to you. You will get a needs list, and that's how we'll be generating that list, and that'll start. It's already started. We've already met with we've got some things on the programming part of it. I will be coming to you in the next month or so with that list.
So the technology won't be part of the building?
It could, that's where that one, there could be some overlap, because the technology part with the building may be some infrastructure things. But the other things, like the technology needs as far as laptops or computers or tablets or programming and site license and things like that, that'll come more probably from the progress monitoring and meeting with the principals themselves and not from the LPC part.
Okay. So, I mean, our eventual goals are to be...
Have one list.
One of our strategic goals was that we would have 1-to-1 in the upper grades and 1-to-4 in the lower grades.
1-to-1 in the lower grades and 1-to-4 in the upper grades. 1-to-1 in K6 and 7-12 was a 4-to-1 ratio. That's on our strategic plan. We're starting to address that.
Any questions from Mr. Christie on that item?
If there are anything that you need me to address in those, let me know.
All right, next up is item number 18, consider approval of a one-time allocation to Black Achievers for trip to Atlanta, Georgia in the amount of $2,000. Mr. Howard.
Good evening. I brought our Black Achievers Coordinator, one of our superstar teachers, Miss Brittany Williams. The program is not just at RDC, but it's also GRC. So if you have any questions for she or I would entertain those and try to.
How many students do you have in the program this year?
We have approximately 20 students. On this particular trip, we only have 12 that are able to attend.
Okay.
I had some question about the, in the past when we've been doing allocations to school groups, it's been for competition, for national competition, rather than, I mean, this looks like a fun trip, but I'm not seeing competition that the students would be participating in, and I'm seeing less education-related things than I like to see. What's the rationale for that? I'm seeing skating and going to the mall, and yes, those are fun things, but when we're using district funds to pay for that, I sort of want to see a little more educational stuff.
Yes, we actually have our students typically are not exposed to historically black colleges, and so we are going to be touring Clark Atlanta, which is a historically black college, and we also at the Georgia Dome will have a college fair, and they will get an opportunity to get any information necessary for admission for those colleges. And the so we are focusing on our college and career aspect there, being exposed to that. We also, during the Battle of the Bands, actually, they have dance and music that is involved there, which could relate to our program review. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime type of opportunity for our students. Typically, this is something that they would watch on TV at home and would not ever be experienced to this actually being there. And even me personally, as a middle school student or high school student, I didn't know what a historically black college or university was. I'm originally from Montgomery County, and it wasn't until later on that I was exposed to that. And I have a couple of friends that were able to attend, and it is a culturally enriching thing for our African American students to be exposed to.
And on the chaperones, are these staff chaperones?
Yes.
Like your staff?
Yes, it's
Okay.
myself, Tara Cruz, and Eva Miller.
And what's the grade level of students attending?
We have 3 students that are from Campbell. 2 of those students, well, all 3 of those students are 8th graders, and the rest of the students are at GRC.
And what grade level are they there?
It's various from 9th through 12th grade. We have 1 senior.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any partnerships in the state of Kentucky with other states and particularly traditionally black universities?
None that I'm aware of.
I know that some universities are partnering with other universities, and I just know of this just because I hear about it peripherally, that they're, like, University of Kentucky is looking to reach out to another university in Texas, and to try to get students going back and forth and things like that. And I didn't know if that's why that university was singled out, or if it was just, well, this fits with our
The
trip.
YMCA Black Achievers Program may have some type of partnership or connection with that particular university.
Mhm.
They actually organize the entire trip, so we're just able to be a part of it.
Any other questions? If not, a motion is ordered to consider approval of one-time allocation of Black Achievers for a trip to Atlanta, Georgia, in the amount of $2,000.
I make a motion to approve the one-time allocation for $2,000.
Motion by Dr. Griffith. Second. Second by Mr. Farado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's pretty phenomenal, like I said.
Is this on TV?
I'm just good. Go RDC.
Okay. Next up is item number 19, discussion of board and superintendent goals. I'll throw out, well, actually, that's not relevant to this discussion, but as part of the mid-year assessment process, I think it would be good for us to look at the board superintendent goals, which we agreed on at the beginning of this year. This is what, January, February, so much of and I'll just read those off. There are 11 goals, and I think we can kind of tick off our success or failure at each one. The first was continued proficiency for the district, and that's something we accomplished. Number 2 is proficiency for each individual school by 2017. It's not something we've accomplished. We have 3 out of 7 schools proficient, so we have some work to do there. Number 3, all students at grade levels 4, 6, and 8 on grade level for reading and math. So we have some work to do there. Our metrics for assessment there are MAP and end-of-year assessment. We'll have some MAP data coming back from the most recent administration we can look at next month. And I was talking time before about alignment between board superintendent goals and CDIS. This is one item which probably needs to be aligned. So as we look at, as we revise this list, we may need to do it with the CDIS in mind and make sure that we're going where we want to go. So number 4 is all students college and career ready. We did a very good job of this. ACT, Compass results, other measures of career readiness, our college and career readiness score, and our graduation rate, which was item number 5, were probably the 2 things which propelled the district to proficient status. So I think we remember that, and the fact that GRC is a school of distinction for those 2 items primarily. So item number 6, create a district culture which will support the growth of professional learning communities and be conducive to creating a safe and positive environment for learning. So our assessment metrics there, TEL surveys, parent surveys, and student voice component of assessment system. So I think our student voice system, is reflected in program reviews, which by and large were good. I see some changes coming down the pike for program reviews from the state, so there's probably going to be a fairly fundamental change in the way we do them and, you know, and how they're done. So if I'm reading tea leaves correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. TEL, I think, is a very valuable tool, but we only get it once every 2 years. The last TEL survey was 2015. The next one will be due in 2017, so that's every 2 years. Our last survey, when you look at that survey at just many teachers here in the audience, that's something that we as board members greatly appreciate and treasure that data. I think it's very important. The system is done very well. It's blinded to everybody. We can look at results by district, by school, and it gives us it's a very valuable piece of information and insight into what's going on in your building. And I know that the five of us pay very close attention to that when it comes out. And I'll refer back to TEL if I have issues with something or I'm looking to see what's going on or how to address a problem. So. Item number 7, continued implementation of the district facility plan. We are making some progress in buildings. The local planning committee will be meeting within the next month or two to move that process along. Assuring equity for all schools and students, implementing the equity committee's recommendations, and also continued focus on gap and gap reduction is important. Effective communication between parents, students, staff, and community. Our metrics that we chose there were TEL and parent surveys, site-based council minutes, which we review as part of our board packet now. So those of you who are taking minutes in your site-based council meetings, if you think nobody's looking at them, we are. District and school websites, and media relations. So item number 10 is continued fiscal responsibility, budget and contingency. We're going to have a budget training next week, next Monday. And we will have a budget meeting in the early part of January to develop our working budget our preliminary budget for 2016-2017. So, and item number 11 is holding district leaders and principals accountable for implementing the above goals. And our chosen metric there was PGBS. So looking overall, I think we've made some really excellent progress in some of those areas. Some of those areas need some work. I think in general, they're parallel to the district improvement plan. I think there could be a little bit better articulation there. So I think that's something that we would need to work on over the next year. Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
Are we going to plan to look at our, one of the things that we talked about at one point was looking at our goals every quarter and seeing how we're making progress? Are we going to say how we're going to do that?
How would you tie that in when you're talking about the CDIP? Right. That would be a time to tie it right in with that.
And I might throw out the possibility of a work session to articulate the CDIP and the board superintendent goals. So that way we're looking at one continuous document instead of this. Some of those go in different places. Some of those are very well focused. Some of those go in different places.
I would think too at the organizational meeting in January, if there's a time to ever tweak those, that's a time that you might want to look at tweaking any of those goals. That's a time, an organizational meeting. To me, that would be a time to look at. You can even make adjustments to the goals, adding or changing them.
So we actually started that process this past January, and we didn't get done until February. So, okay. All right, next step is interim superintendent evaluation and contract. We'll talk about the superintendent evaluation first. Remember, as everybody out here subscribes to some sort of principal or teacher growth and effectiveness system, remember that has a cumulative assessment piece and an ongoing assessment piece. And the board chose to do an interim superintendent evaluation as part of the ongoing piece. So we've had a lot of discussion about looking at board superintendent goals and looking at the board superintendent goals more frequently and the CDIP more frequently to make sure that we're aligned and focused on those things. So, but again, summarize this as an ongoing process. So I have hard copies of the evaluation up here. It'll be up on the district website tomorrow. I'll go ahead and just go ahead and hit highlights. Mr. Christie was evaluated under the old system in 2014, and there were some goals that were derived from that system then. And he was evaluated under the new superintendent SPGES system this past year in 2015. So, and the standards are different, so he's got some parallel goals which have some overlap here. So I'll just go ahead and hit some of the highlights. On leadership and district culture, a suggested goal from 2014 was for district goals, mission, vision, and values to be revisited. We had a strategic planning process, which I think was successful, and everybody can turn around and look at the back. You can see our new vision and mission statement, our new logo, lots of rebranding that's happening to the district, so we think that's been accomplished. Policy and governance, it's just the goal would be to be a thorough review of district policies and procedures to ensure they reflect current and best practices. That's happened, that process was started, but it's been put on the sidelines as the board's gotten busy with other work. I have to go back and revisit that, and that's the process of going through the entire policy manual. Ms. Combs didn't want to hear that, but it's a process that we have started. So, understand number 3, communications and community relations. One suggested goal is to have better communication with board members and the staff, as well as the community at large, which we thought was continuing to improve. Have a positive media presence in the community, which we think is improved. We had some comments about school websites being updated, and alternative means of communicating with the community should be entertained. I think there is significant work for improvement there. The district website was down for several weeks. It was difficult for people to access needed data. That was a fairly lengthy process, which we had a lot of issues with. Also, we really don't have any social media presence, and if you think about it, there are some people that use Twitter and Facebook instead of email. So email is probably going to be passé within 5 to 7 years, and I think we as a district need to get on top of that. So, standard number 4 is organizational management. Our suggested goal was for the district to have a long-range IT plan, which we did put into place this past fall. We as a district, we as a board need to get feedback regarding the effectiveness of technology purchases. We have a lot of technology at Baker, and we want to make sure that that technology is paying off in better educated students. To put it bluntly. So, under curriculum planning development, suggested goal was successful implementation of the new curriculums for reading in other areas, which are aligned with Common Core, which we had significant progress with. I think our recent test scores indicate satisfactory progress in implementation. Our district needs development and implementation of a writing curriculum. Our CDIP outlined the amount of resources and time, money, personnel that we're going to use to do that. Our district writing scores have been needing improvement for a fairly lengthy period of time, and I think we're going to need to have a renewed focus on writing, because I think that's a weakness of kids coming out of our schools. So, instructional leadership. We've asked Mr. Christie to provide evidence of education specific to the area of curriculum and instruction. We realize he's very strong at personnel and operational areas, but we as a board feel strongly that he needs to work on developing his skills as an educational leader. Standard number 7, human resources management. We talked about new classified and certified staffing plans, which were implemented. And number 8, values and ethics of leadership. Suggested goal would be to increase cultural diversity in district leadership. There's some progress on that. We have an equity council, and we pay attention to the recommendations, and like to continue to try to implement the equity council's recommendations whenever we can. And standard number 9 was student achievement and learning, about graduation rate and college and career readiness, both of which were excellent. So we do need to continue to work to get all schools to proficient level. Right now we have 3 out of 7 schools proficient. The new standards overlap somewhat, so I'll skip the areas where there were some other issues. And we talked about a needs list for schools. That was one of the things that came out of the evaluation process. Developing financial priorities with this, the CDIP and Vine Share needs list for all schools with boards. The superintendent and board can jointly establish financial priorities. We think that's important. So, again, with instructional leadership, providing some evidence of education specific to the area of curriculum and instruction. More closely monitoring instruction programs in individual schools. Talked about comprehensive IT plan. Increasing staff recognition, which is progressing. Boards notice on the new website the weekly recognition section that we have. Increasing community engagement and buzz for district efforts. I think that's progressing. I think a lot of people know that Clark County schools are doing well, and our school district is moving forward. There's a lot of positive forward momentum. There are also a lot of people out there who don't know that. And anybody I see, I try to educate on that. But I think that needs to be something that's ongoing from everyone who works in our district. So, developing a district-wide culture that furthers its mission and values. We've defined the mission and values through the strategic plan, and a district culture is being developed with student learning as a priority. So, I've talked about classified evaluation system, needs list. Continue to improve district communication with all stakeholders, especially the community. One thing that we need to work on, we're doing good for college and career readiness as defined by Frankfurt. I want to make sure we're doing good with college and career readiness as defined by our employers. Okay? Presentation by Mr. Pavel tonight, he's going to be creating a significant number of jobs in our community. And I think it is our job as a school system to get people ready for those jobs. So we need to work closely with industry to make sure that our students possess not only qualities but also soft skills, things like interviewing, and how to do resume, and how to handle a job interview. So let's see. Okay, and the last item was influential leadership. Become an influential leader and force for positive change in the community. We thought there was some progress there, and he's been able to effectively communicate cultural changes in the district and the community at large. Okay. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, like I said, hard copies of the evaluation are up front if anybody would like those, and we'll make sure these appear on the district website. All right, next up is superintendent's contract. Mr. Christie's contract expires June 30th of 2016. And I brought this item before the board because I think it's time for us to consider that. If we're going to extend this contract, I think now is the time. If we're not going to renew his contract, finding a new superintendent takes time. And so in order to make sure that process is done effectively, we need some lead time there. So I think today is the day we need to visit this. So we've had the superintendent evaluation process to help guide us there. And help kind of focus our thoughts. So I'll entertain discussion on that.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we extend Superintendent Christie's contract for a period of 2 years with a raise in salary that reflects the same percentage that certified staff has made the last 3 years.
All right. So the motion is on the table by Mr. Parado for 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And the raise equal to?
The same percentage that certified staff has received the past 3 years.
Okay, is there a second?
What's the rationale for 2 years?
That's just my motion.
And so this, would that be the 1%, 2% that has been going on?
Yes, the same thing with what certified staff is. I just feel like the superintendent should be on that same plane as when teachers receive a raise. We should look at making our superintendent have a raise as well.
I'll second it.
Second by Dr. Griffith. How do you want to do this? Roll call or just regular vote?
We're going to discuss.
Discussion?
Are we going to discuss?
Discuss.
I believe that one of the superintendent's most important tasks, and one that cannot be delegated, is instructional leadership. This role involves being familiar with current academic trends and topics, being well-versed in discussing key aspects of academic programs, and providing administrative and instructional mentoring, particularly to new teachers and principals. The role also involves staffing, or from my perspective, I believe it involves staffing those district positions with highly skilled and highly trained personnel by assessing talents and matching them with positions that best use those talents. I'm not convinced that strong, effective instructional leadership has happened at the highest level that it should be happening in our district. More than half of our schools still need to reach proficiency in their test scores. Mr. Christie was a highly trained and very skilled director of operations in our district for 7 years before he became superintendent. I have the greatest respect for his skills in operations. And some of you will recall that 2.5 years ago when we were doing that hiring, I preferred that he remain in the position as director of operations, because that position allowed him to thrive, and it allowed this district to benefit from his very unique set of skills and talents. But the board decided to hire him as the instructional leader of the district, and I am sorry to say that I do not believe that his skills and talents have been a successful fit for that very, very important and critical task for our district. If all of our schools were to had been proficient this year or distinguished, I would have been on board to support a multi-year contract. But that didn't happen, and I'm not on board with the renewal of the contract.
Would you be in agreement for a 1-year extension?
Sometimes it's a lot easier to make a popular decision for adults than it is to make the best instructional decision for kids. And, I believe that we need stronger instructional leadership now. So I guess in answer to your question, I'm not in favor of a 1-year contract.
Is Mr. Christie allowed to speak on his own behalf?
Sure. What I need to say. I just go back. I think, show me area in this district that hasn't improved in the last 3 years. We've talked about that. Every area that we've looked at hasn't shown improvement.
I'll give you two, Mr. Christie.
Are we where we want to be? No, but we're getting there. Go ahead. If you've got a couple, I'd like to hear them, because we didn't a week ago, so they've just come up, so I'd like to know what they are. I assure you, I try to work on making this district as successful as it can be. I will stand behind all appointments that I've made in this district, administratively or teachers, and if not, I live by the same motto as you've heard it here before: we'll coach them up or we'll coach out. So we work on getting the administrators and teachers and central office staff and myself to the level that we feel that you feel that we need, and that's a daily thing that I strive to do with everybody. But I stand firmly behind the appointments that I've made in the 3 years that I've been here. And are we where we want to be? No. But there are very few school districts out there that if you ask that question of them tonight, that would say, yes, we're where we want to be either. Because it's lifelong learning, and I'm committed to that. I'm convinced that the people that I've surrounded myself is committed to that. And we strive for that every day in every area, and I'll continue to do that. I will tell you about a 1-year contract. I think that puts me in a very difficult position, knowing that you're just here 1 year. I want to be in a position where I can make decisions, I can make recommendations, and I can work with people with them knowing that I'm going to be here and I'm not a short-time person and they just have to deal with it for a few months and it's going to be gone. So I don't think a 1 year is a good for anybody, whether it's talking about for me or anything else. That's just a difficult position. So that's kind of where I am. I appreciate the fact that you're talking about the same as the teachers, because that's something that I would ask. That I wouldn't want to be treated differently than teachers. I just think that's a fair place to be, the superintendent or anybody else to get. So it's equal across the board. Wouldn't ask for any more than you're giving the teachers. And the areas of improvement, the areas that's not as good.
Athletics, we have issues with athletics. We have issues in transportation, major issues in transportation last year. Some of those have been addressed, but this board had to devote a lot of time, effort, and energy to get those situations straightened out.
So, and let me address that. We had some issues in transportation, much of which revolves around the fact that we're probably way underpaid, and we're asking people to come in and do jobs that are very difficult. Some of the most as important jobs we do in our district, taking care of our kids, getting them safely to and from school, and it's a very low-paid job. And once we saw that was the issue, we've made every effort, and we've worked diligently over the summer to address that. And I'm not aware of transportation problems this year. I think our transportation probably this year is working as smooth as it's worked in the 10 years that I've been here. And the other one was the athletics. You know, we talk about issues, and I assume you're talking about personnel issues there. Anytime you're...
No, just overall, we have facilities issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, we
So
need
that's part of the
facilities to play on. That's one thing. We need facilities to play in and play on. And the fact that we're having to schedule high school girls basketball, high school boys basketball, girls cheerleading, high school dance, middle school basketball, boys, 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, volleyball, and I can go on naming some others in the same gym. That's difficult. That is a very difficult thing to do. Personnel issues, I'm probably referring to maybe one personnel issue. I dealt with it at the time using our KSBA attorneys and my attorneys there, and made sure that we did everything legitimately there. You know, that was looked into by KDE. KDE gave us a cleared us on everything, that we did everything the way we should have, and there wasn't a problem. There will always be issues with parents who feel that their child is not getting the adequate amount of playing time, and I refuse as a superintendent to intervene in between a coach and a parent on playing time. That's what the coaches are hired for, and the coaches deal with that. And so, you know, athletics, you know, I don't know what else to say about that. We've had some very competitive teams. You know, they're, and I think, going to get much like our test scores. I see in the next couple of years, I see those going through the roof too athletically. I think we've got some good athletes coming up. You're going to see those programs thrive. And when the programs become winning programs and they're winning games, you have fewer coaching issues when you're winning. And we've just gone through a tough time right now, and that's why you're seeing some of these. I think we have good coaches. You know, do we need to look at how that's all structured? Maybe. You know. So I'll look at that.
I think, you know, when I do an evaluation, and I'm going to be critical when I do evaluation, because if you don't get to the point, you don't get improved. And being from athletics myself, giving a sports analogy, and I said this to someone, you know, last year, Kentucky went 38-1. And there's a lot of people that criticize John Calipari in that. But he was still 38-1. 3 years proficiency. That's bottom line to me.
I'll say 3 years ago, probably the biggest issue facing this district was our facilities. We had a facilities plan that was just really intensely disliked by the community, and I think it was incumbent upon the board to, and Mr. Christie, to change that as quickly as we could. And I think we've been able to lay the groundwork for successful schools. I think we've got a great structure that's going to function quite well into the future. It's something that's accepted by the community, it's accepted by all of you. I think there's been a lot of work that's been done to promote that, and you know that took a lot of operational expertise. So, but we were at the point we have the grade structure, which we're going to have, and we have to build athletic facilities, and we have to build preschool. We have to finish the Campbell renovation. So those are things that are on the list, but we're not going to be building buildings for much longer. So, and focus in our district is probably going to need to change over to curriculum and academics. Trying to get as many kids as possibly can, you know, proficient or distinguished, and you know, just to increase, you know, basically, if you have no other term, you know, the more product of our schools, you know, we need better graduates better, and I think that's going to take some strong academic and curriculum leadership. So I do echo Ms. Hicks' sentiments there.
I would agree that 3 years ago we had much higher facility needs. We had larger problems, but I would also contend that 3 years ago we had lower K-Prep scores, and we had kids less college and career ready, and we had lower kindergarten scores. We go right on down the list. We had lower scores in a lot of areas. So I don't think 3 years ago it was just a facilities thing, and I don't think we've just looked at facilities for the last 3 years, or we wouldn't be where we are.
But 3 years ago, you weren't the superintendent of record for those schools.
What? I'm sorry?
3 years
The third year,
back,
okay.
you were the first year that the district achieved proficiency.
Well,
You were not the superintendent.
When I took over as superintendent, I'll say that facilities are in better position than they were then, and the scores are higher than they were then. Not where we want to be, not where we're going to be. I've got all the faith in the world in the group of people that we've got assembled, and we're going to get there.
Other discussion?
I feel like this whole thing is just inappropriate. I do not like the way that this is being handled. I do not like the fact that we're setting our superintendent up here and basically ridiculing him on certain things. It's not my style. We don't do it to our teachers. We don't do it to our administrators. I don't like this. I know it's not our decision or whatever.
Well,
I don't like it either, Ashley.
I don't
It's-
either. I don't like it either.
And I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not going to, what I have to say to Paul about, or Mr. Christie about what I feel needs to be changed, I say to him. But to sit up here and make someone defend themselves like this is horrible, in my opinion.
Well, the actual law says the superintendent shall not be present when his or her contract and tenure are being discussed. But we went through that it could be he's a public person, so he could sit in the public and do that.
And,
I'll step out if you want
No,
to
no,
step out.
that's fine, but,
Sorry, you're entitled to stay or go if you'd like.
the reason this is all being done in open session prior to probably, about 5 years ago, it was done, a lot of this was in a closed session, but there was an Attorney General opinion which said that any discussion pertaining to extension or renewal of a superintendent's contract must be completely in open session. So we were obeying that Attorney General. So, and I think that came from, there were some other districts that, quite frankly, were not as diligent and not as concerned about student achievement and forward progress as this one is, and they're giving some pretty sweetheart deals. So.
I understand that, but there's always room for improvement, and I would hate for somebody to come in front of the people that I work for and tell me everything I need to change about myself and what I'm doing wrong. I just don't agree with it.
Point of order, take a vote.
Sure. All right, Mr. Parrott called the motion. So the motion on the table is 2 years, 2-year contract with a raise equal to the percentage that the certified staff has gotten over the past 3 years. It's been made by Mr. Parado and seconded by Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is that 3 ayes? No?
No.
No for me. So motion carries 3-2. So that's going to be Ms. Ritchie, Mr. Parado, and Dr. Griffith in favor, and Dr. Kudak, and Ms. Hicks opposed. Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Consent agenda items are as follows. A motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all the following. Item number 21, acknowledge SBDM minutes. Item number 22, approval of employee leaves of absence. Item number 23, acknowledge note of personnel action report. Item number 24, acknowledge monthly energy report. Item number 25, acknowledge the cash position report. Item number 26, acknowledge the Clark County Clerk's motor vehicle tax report. Item number 27, acknowledge the Clark County Sheriff's report. Item number 28, acknowledge the monthly financial report. Item number 29, acknowledge the general fund budget summary report. The motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all those items.
I make a motion to approve or acknowledge items 21 through 29.
Motion by Dr. Griffith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Parado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Ritchie out of the room. Motion is in order to authorize payments of salaries and accounts payable.
I make a motion to authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
Motion by Dr. Griffith. Second by Gordon Parado. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Ms. Ritchie out of the room. Motion is in order to adjourn.
Get a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Mr. Parado.
I'll
There's no
second
Ms.
it.
Ritchie to second it.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Dr. Griffith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Ms. Ritchie out. We're adjourned at 9:32 p.m.
Congratulations.